Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Two Vits Talking Shit. We are just past Championship Sunday. We are a little over a week away from the Super Bowl, and we've got a couple things we'd love to discuss about our lovely sport known as football. Now, I'm coming into this week with some thoughts on things, and those things that I had thoughts on, specifically about one team that's playing in the Super Bowl and one team only, they were not taken. Those thoughts were not taken too kindly by my dad, Mike Vitt. I'm Michael Vitt, by the way. Should we start there? I guess with my little pre-statement that I made before we started recording.
No, I didn't have a problem with what you want to talk about. However, it was a little thin in content, and I had many more things that I wanted to discuss.
That's true.
We've got 2 weeks of first full week off of football, and so that means we can cover some different topics. Obviously, it'll be a little thinner on amount of games and stuff, but there are other things.
Yeah, I mean
that we can discuss. So let's start with what you were what you had going, and then we'll get into some more topics that I had thought about.
Well, what I was wanting to start with had to do with the games that happened last week and kind of the whole playoffs in general, right? But so let's just start there. Okay, so last week we had the Denver Broncos playing the New England Patriots in Denver. Denver, of course, playing without their starting quarterback Bo Nix, who broke his ankle a week before. So they were starting a quarterback who hadn't started a game since 2023, right?
Yep.
With the Raiders?
Yeah.
So...
No, it was actually with the Broncos.
Oh, he did start a game with the Broncos in 2023. Okay.
Yeah, he started late in the season with the Broncos the last year.
Yeah.
That Russell Wilson was their quarterback. The head coach was getting rid of him, so he did start, but it had been like almost 800 days or something like that since he started a game, and he's never been a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's always been a backup. So at any rate,
Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah,
the game went terribly offensively. I think for both teams, really, they were both very slow to move the ball. I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting the Broncos to be super crazy. Jarrett Stidham had some fun moments where I could turn to my friend who's a Patriots fan and go, that guy's going to beat you right now. And then second half rolled around and the Patriots figured it out. The main thing I wanted to take away from this game doesn't really have anything to do with the Broncos. They're a talented team. But it was more so that there's been a lot of talk about Drake May and how he and the Patriots really have gotten a free pass to the Super Bowl this year, where their schedule was super easy and they didn't have to play anybody super talented. And then in the playoffs, they played 3 very, very talented defenses. I think it was 3 top 5 defenses. But the offenses they were playing against were total messes. And so a lot of talk this week has been, are the Patriots actually legit? Is Drake May a good quarterback since he's played terribly in the playoffs statistically? And that's been a whole discussion. I think we both have been saying for a while now that the Seahawks or whichever team that comes out of the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl this year because the talent on the NFC side of the league is way better than the AFC side. So, I mean, let's visit this topic. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the Patriots and Drake May?
There's a couple things that go along with this. I think Drake May had a very good season. Drake May,
I agree.
The quarterback for the Patriots has been depending on what week it is, number 1 or number 2 in MVP status with him and
Matthew Stafford.
Oh my gosh, Matthew Stafford for the Rams. And so I don't think you can take anything away from that. I can say that he has not looked particularly good in the playoffs.
No, sir.
So, but they're in the Super Bowl, so it's sort of like one of those things where I don't think the Patriots are winning in spite of him. No. I don't think that they're winning because of him at this point. And to be in your second season, your first season with a new coach,
new head coach,
a new system in place, I'd say he's fine. I haven't really thought a ton about that or have a particular huge opinion about Drake May in particular. The topic of how the Patriots got there is certainly one that's been a hot topic.
For sure.
And my thoughts on that up to the playoffs is sort of like you play who you play. The schedule gets made. You play who you play. The strength of schedule, generally speaking, is based on, although, in some degree based on sort of your position from last year. They were a 14 win last year. And so you get what you get. And they did a good job of drafting Drake May, who's done a good job, and hiring a head coach in Mike Vrabel, who brought in a staff, who changed the culture back to the winning ways of the Patriots. And they put a lot of good places in place, and they picked up some players that maybe a month or two ago, people were like, why would you do that? Who have turned out to be instrumental. One of those being the one who tipped the field goal, the partially blocked field goal.
Yeah.
In this last week's game, that would have tied the game. And so it is what it is. As far as the playoffs go, the same people who say that they haven't played anybody in this regular season are going to yell at the top of their lungs the same thing. And I suppose you're right. They played the Chargers, who played Justin Herbert, who has done nothing in the playoffs.
Zero.
In postseason since he got in the NFL. He had a broken hand.
Yep.
And to say they had a depleted offensive line would be a ginormous understatement.
Yeah,
I don't think that any of the five on that offensive line.
I think the Chargers have had the most different starting offensive lines in the league this year.
They
are decimated.
It was a travesty. It was a travesty what happened to them. And then they beat the Texans. And if you watch the Texans game, that is definitely a game where they lost the Texans, or they beat the Texans in large part due to the quarterback for the Texans, in Stroud, C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud looked like he didn't play in the NFL the last 3 years or 4 years.
He looked rough.
Division II FCS college quarterback that they just put into the game.
We were at halftime. And the commentators were saying he does not look like has any confidence at all, and he does not look like he's there. He should be there.
An overused old term. He looked like a deer in headlights.
He looked like he was seeing ghosts out there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of my favorites.
And so I mean, the Texans were phenomenal on defense, and
best defense in the league.
You have a quarterback who's given the ball. I think he gave it over 4 times that game.
Five turnovers total.
5 turnovers by one person. It's crazy. And so, and then, as luck would have it, they play the Broncos, who lose their quarterback in the second to last play in the week before. And so, I mean, they've had some interesting circumstances. I will not put an asterisk next to how they got to the Super Bowl in my mind.
No, I don't. I mean,
they played who was on the schedule, and that's just all you can do. And hey, sometimes, you know what? The breaks have to go your way. We can look at the Lions 2 years ago and know that they were completely decimated by injuries, and had they not had the injuries they had, potentially the Lions go to the Super Bowl that year, or do better, are in a better position, certainly. And that's just the way things happen.
I mean,
so that is what it is.
Yeah, you have to look at it. It's similar with how, the Bears had a phenomenal season because they were also playing a worse schedule, right?
Yep.
It's just a case of in terms of what happens, right? The Patriots are not in a premier division in NFL football, right? They play in one of the weaker divisions, I'd argue, when they have teams like the Dolphins and the Jets to play twice a year every year. But I mean, they still won games, and they won games against good teams. They beat the Panthers early on in the season. That's a playoff team. They beat the Bills. That's a playoff team, right? They beat a hot Falcons team, right? They beat the Ravens, who are considered to be a good team. They've beat enough teams to prove that they're a team that's up there.
I will say this for a team that's going to the Super Bowl, they did lose to the Raiders this year.
They did. That is true.
And that's all I'll say about the Raiders.
One of their 2 losses were against the Raiders in week 1. Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. That is
Which,
true.
had they
right?
won that game,
they would have had the first seed.
Had they won that game, they would have played this last week's game in New England and not in Denver. That was the differentiator.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah,
That's
that
my
is funny.
Raiders talk of the pod.
But
Moving
yeah,
on.
I mean, at the end of the day, right? Drake May had a great regular season. And then going into the playoffs, he did not look as good. And that's because I think he played against 3 top 5 defenses. And honestly, I think when you are coached by a guy who is a defensive head coach, and your offensive coordinator is Josh McDaniels, who's a good offensive coordinator.
How many Super Bowls has Josh McDaniels coached in?
I mean, he was with the Patriots for one of the years that they won. Was he not? I don't know how many he has been in.
No,
Or was it all Fatty Matty Patricia that time? And Bill Belichick running the offense. Sorry. Was he not? He was not an offensive coordinator once?
Let me ask you a different question that's less hard to answer. Who developed and was along almost the entire journey with one Mr. Tom Brady?
Who was with him?
Yeah.
Oh my God, McDaniels has been with them the whole time. You're right. It was early 2000s,
Josh McDaniels has been with New England from 2001 to 2008. That's the first 3 they won.
Yeah, the first 3.
And from 2012 to 2021. Josh McDaniels has
been there the whole time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 5.
Okay, so
5 Super Bowl rings.
So then this is good. This is what my statement was. I wasn't even going to include. I wasn't even going to include that.
He has 6.
I wasn't even going to include that merit. I was just saying Josh McDaniels has been proven to be a good offensive coordinator when you're going against 3 top 5 defenses, and your offense isn't going anywhere, right? You know, they still found a way to win the games, and they won it off the back of their defense, right? Sure. And I didn't analyze every second of that football game. I was watching it, drinking with my friends, but you know. Just because he didn't have interstellar performances and he didn't throw for 400 yards and score 6 touchdowns doesn't mean he didn't play bad, right? I think in all those games...
Well, he didn't play great. He had like 80-something yards. He had almost as many yards rushing as he did passing.
Yes,
and
in the last game.
I did watch the game, and I was not indulging in adult beverages, so I watched the entire game clear-minded and paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
There were some awful throws, and... That was included throws in the first half when it was
before it was snowing.
Yeah. So he did not look good. He has not looked good. He has not looked good on the level that a potential MVP of the league is expected to look. However, that said, football is not a quarterback-only game. It is a team game, and New England Patriots have done what it takes to get there. I think that Drake May is still a work in progress and developing.
He's a second-year QB,
and I think that he will be fine in the Super Bowl. I don't think that the moment's too big for him. We've seen, unfortunately, by Stidham, who was the backup in the Broncos game for the Broncos, and so my thought on that is you play who you play. The Patriots have done a good job.
Yeah.
And I think that if I was a Patriots fan, that I would be standing on the top of the hill exclaiming how awesome we are yet again after only a couple of years of not good football. The year after Tom Brady left, the 2 years after Tom Brady left, the Belichick was still there. The 1 year last year that they had a different coach who I think was hired solely to hold the seat warm for when they hired Mike Vrabel, who took a year off.
Yeah.
Because that's what Mike Vrabel wanted to do. And I think that in a matter of 2 to 3 years, they have flipped that division back around. And quite frankly, I don't see even the Buffalo Bills challenging them, at least the way that Buffalo Bills fans want them to be, if anytime soon. I think that they have the unfortunate ability where they stand now with a quarterback in only his second year, so they're not paying him to continue to put pieces together in that team to be really, really good, which as somebody who is, just doesn't like the Patriots particularly, is sort of not what I wanted to see.
Yeah, it's not what anybody wants, right? Unless you're a Patriots fan.
Unless you're an asshole.
But yeah.
In which case, you love that.
Yeah. So. And you know what? That's where the thoughts end, I think. But I do think, to go back to the very start of what we said, although we just gave the Patriots a lot of credit for what they've done, I do think they're severely outmatched by the representative from the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks. So let's get into that discussion. Why don't
So
we?
let's do this real quick. So let's summarize. I just want to summarize the games real quick because I pay very close attention and watch these games very closely.
Yeah.
The Denver Broncos, New England Patriots game. You and I talked about last week. I think we both were on the side of the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't go to the side of the Broncos because what we said last week was essentially if anybody can make a backup quarterback who has played not one game in 2 years, essentially, and turn him into somebody who could win the championship, the conference championship, and go to the Super Bowl, it was Sean Payton.
With Sean Payton. Yep.
Stidham is a backup quarterback, but he's a very good backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the side of the Patriots, and it proved to be correct. Jarrett Stidham had a couple of decent throws, but quite frankly, he looked like somebody who wasn't used to the speed of the game and wasn't used to taking some of the decisions that needed to be made on the field and taking into consideration a lot of things because you just don't go through those. You just don't have the reps. You just don't do it as much. You're not in those games throughout the seasons to learn these are the things you do and don't do. And, and so he had the interception in the game wasn't particularly good.
Terrible.
And he had, it didn't cost him the game, but it was how New England scored their touchdown when he essentially fumbled the ball inside like the 10-yard line.
That awkward.
And the next play, New England scored a touchdown. Yeah. And so instead of punting the ball away, they gave him that. So in that respect, that's sort of what happened there. The one controversy decision that was made in this game, even probably thankfully for Jarrett Stidham, luckily for Jarrett Stidham, that sort of overshadows him, was the decision by Sean Payton, the head coach, to go for it on 4th and 1 instead of going for was essentially a chip shot field goal in the first half in the second quarter instead of taking those points when they were up 7-0, so they would have been up potentially 10-0.
10-0.
They went for it on 4th and 1. It was a horrific play. It got shut down. They got no points out of it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why that ended up being that way, if you didn't watch the game, was that the weather in Denver started off as a cold,
clear as day,
clear and no weather.
Yep.
And by the middle of the third quarter, you could barely see the football game.
Yeah.
And by the middle of the fourth quarter, the announcers couldn't tell me what yard line the ball was on anymore because there was so much snow.
That field was covered.
A blizzard. And so that decision got looked at under a microscope, and rightfully so, because somebody had to tell Sean Payton, the head coach of Broncos, that there's going to be a storm coming and there's going to be no more scoring after a certain point. So let's get these points on the board. And as it turns out, the game ended up 10-7. Broncos
3-point game.
And New England ended up getting the touchdown on that decision, on that 4th and 1 decision, and then got a field goal in the snow before it got too crazy. And that was the last of the scoring. So that's how that game went. Now we can switch on because what actually ended up being a really good game was the second game, and that was the Seahawks versus Rams.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that one?
First of all, that first game we just talked about, this one was like the complete opposite.
Oh, yeah.
It was just both teams throwing haymakers at each other for 60 minutes straight, and it was
what a fun game.
This game was all about the quarterbacks. Both QBs were the reason these teams were playing. Both quarterbacks threw for 350 yards or more. Both threw for 3 touchdowns. Both had, I think Sam Darnold had like 5 yards under 350, but both QBs were balling out. The leading rushers for each team were at like 60 yards apiece. Like it really was a quarterback v quarterback matchup. And going into it, me specifically, I was saying Sam Darnold cannot prove to be a choke artist again, because in previous years, that's what's happened, right? He stumbled at the end of the season. And I believe that Sam Darnold was up to the task this week, and I hope he will be up to the task next week, because he and his Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27 in a game that was super exciting the entire way through.
Oh yeah, what an incredibly fun game. And I mean, you basically laid it out, but this is how close it was. Going down the stat line for these guys, Stafford had 62.9% completions. Sam Darnold, this is the largest differentiator. Sam Darnold had a 69.4%.
Yep.
Pass yards, 374 for Stafford, 346 for Darnold.
Yep.
Yards per pass, 10.7 for Stafford, 9.6 for Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Touchdowns to interceptions, both of them were 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and both of them, here's their passer rating. So basically all those stats, all the stat lines they keep, and basically how these quarterbacks fared out.
Oh, I'm looking at it
127.6 for Stafford to 127.8.
for
Two
Sam Darnold
tenths separated, basically saying who was the better quarterback in this game.
that day.
Phenomenal game. You coined it exactly the way I said it. They were throwing haymakers. It was an absolutely
At one
wonderful game
point,
to watch.
I think we were in the middle of the third quarter, and Stafford had 16 pass attempts for 300 yards. Like, dude was balling out. It was a crazy game, super fun to watch. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have any specifics. I think there's one thing you mentioned that has nothing to do with the Super Bowl in the middle of this game, which was you sent me a text saying that Kubiak, the
We'll get to
Seattle
that.
Seahawks offensive
Yeah, we'll get to that.
coordinator, was going to get hired at the end of the season. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll get
I
to that.
mean, man,
It was just a great game. I
yeah,
don't remember if I text you this, but if I didn't text you, I was texting somebody else. But basically, this was the Super Bowl. I think
yes.
that game, and man, if you only watch 1 or 2 games from the whole entire season this year, if you got time, go back and watch the Rams Seahawks. All
Every
three of them.
single one of the Rams Seahawks games was the game you should
Phenomenal.
watch. Yep. They all
Yeah,
were
absolutely
all
phenomenal.
like this.
Yeah, and I knew it was going to be the
Wow.
Rams or the Seahawks. I've been calling it for quite a while. I picked the Seahawks to
I think
go
I
to the
was-
Super Bowl. I'm comfortable that the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Seahawks only played 3 close games this year, really, and it was all
They
of
were
them were against the Rams.
The Rams. Yep.
I mean, the Seahawks defense is like a top 5
They're a
defense,
top 5 unit.
except for against the Rams.
Yeah.
That's the only team, and so I think the Seahawks are gonna win this game. I'm not ready even to say a score just yet. Maybe next week before the Super Bowl, we'll talk again. But I think that I'm looking forward to that because I really do want Sam Darnold to play and finish out one entire season.
Yes.
So that some of the people will stop talking.
I think you
trash.
have to. I think you have to stop. You just have to if he wins the Super Bowl. Like you can't at this point. You can't, right?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say at this point that you can't, that you have to, but people still are not,
Yeah.
So yes, if he can win the Super Bowl and not be the reason they lose, quite frankly, although I think some people are thinking he has to have the type of game he had last week in the Super Bowl to get rid of the sort of the stink on him for how his career started. But this is a quarterback who's done something that no other quarterback's ever done, which is win back-to-back seasons of 14 wins or more for 2 separate teams.
Yeah.
So he didn't even do it. It's not like he had a team that was put together and they're running through like a dynasty sort of in a situation.
Nope.
No, he did this in Minnesota last year.
Mm-hmm.
The downfall there was first round of the playoffs. He had a clunker, a stinker, and lost. Or the last game of the season, actually, the last 2 games of last season. He played the Lions, who made him look pretty bad. And then the first round of the playoffs, they lost and he looked pretty bad. So but then he comes back this year like nothing and with a completely different team.
Yeah.
And does the exact same thing. So I'm looking forward to that. That was a phenomenal game to watch. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was just fun. It was a fun game to watch. So.
Yeah, and I think the story going into the Super Bowl is the same as the story was last week, in my opinion, which is Sam Darnold really does decide if his team wins or loses the Super Bowl, in my opinion. I know we were talking about how it's not a quarterback's game, but in the case of Sam Darnold's history with teams, it really does feel like if he isn't going to have his best game, there's a good chance they might lose. So we'll see. I mean, again, he could throw a couple interceptions and I think they'll be fine. He could lose the ball a couple times and I think they'll be fine. But if Sam Darnold crashes and burns like he has in previous years, the Patriots win this Super Bowl. If he doesn't, I think the Seahawks fly by easily. So we'll see.
Well, and let's we'll get into more like maybe Super Bowl specific stuff
next week.
Before as we kind of look towards some of the things that are happening that game specifically, injuries, storylines that we're picking up throughout there. So that's that. I did it. There was a couple more topics I wanted to talk about. I think that was the topics you want to talk about, as far as specifically the Patriots. Just go what you were thinking.
That was just the big discussion. Yeah, the Patriots specifically has been the discussion this week.
Okay, let's do a quick coaches update. Last week we reviewed. We're not going to go through all the coaches movements that we went through last week. New this week. I mean, last week we already had the Titans job was filled, the Falcons job was filled, the Giants job was filled, the Dolphins job was filled, and we are still waiting on a few other teams. And this week we'll run down. We had the Pittsburgh Steelers hired Mike McCarthy.
By Mike McCarthy,
which is an interesting hire. It goes my entire life. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 coaches. All 3 of those coaches were hired in their early to mid 30s, and all 3 of those coaches coached there until they were in their mid 50s.
Yep.
Or thereabouts, at which point they were either fired or walked away. And so Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin are the only coaches that I've ever known for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This hire is a little bit different out of that mold. Mike McCarthy is in his early to mid 60s right now as being hired. And so it's hard to think that he'll be there for 15 or 20 plus years like all the other coaches have been.
Yeah.
On the other side, Mike McCarthy's from Pittsburgh, and he sort of fits the mold of all of those other coaches coming in to kind of sort of what those coaches were when they got to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And so we'll see kind of how that plays out. I think it's interesting also because the Pittsburgh, Tomlin walked away and they basically hired somebody who's probably very similar. And so I'm not really sure.
With almost identical career coaching stats, literally almost even, I think. They both had the same win-loss percentage, same amount of Super Bowls won, almost the exact same time coaching. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I'm not really sure. We'll have to see how it plays out. See if Aaron Rodgers is going to stay, maybe, because if you remember, Mike McCarthy was the coach in Green Bay when Aaron Rodgers got there. That's who they won the Super Bowl with. And so I don't know if there was some sort of agreement. Maybe the Pittsburgh's trying to run it back, keep Aaron Rodgers. Time will tell. We'll see what the decisions are made and how things look. The other thing interesting about that hire is Mike McCarthy has coached 3 of the biggest franchises, most storied franchises in all of football, in the entire NFL history. He has Green Bay, which is where he won a Super Bowl. He coached Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, amongst other countless number of great players. He was the coach in Dallas, which
for a couple years.
Dallas has not been the Dallas from the 90s, but it's still a storied. It's still I know. There's still a storied franchise.
Oh yeah.
And in what I would suspect is his last coaching stop, he's not going to be coaching the Steelers, which is crazy.
I know.
Nobody's ever. I just can't. I can't fathom anybody having this sort of a run. And I think Mike McCarthy's a good coach. I think I said last week in the pod, if he's going to come out of retirement and coach, I'd be happy to have him as the Raiders coach.
Yeah.
But also he's not Bill Belichick. Put a pin in that one. We'll come back to Bill Belichick, but he's not like the greatest coach ever.
No.
But to have that guy fall under have those 3 jobs is phenomenal. I mean, good on you, Mike McCarthy.
I mean, yeah, I think he's definitely got the merit to be able to coach those 3 teams. So
yeah, and
there's no question about that. But yes.
And then Baltimore hired Jesse Minter. He was a defensive coordinator for the Chargers.
Yep.
Which is really funny because Jesse Minter worked for both John Harbaugh, who was the coach for the Baltimore Ravens last 18 years, and he also worked for Jim Harbaugh as the Chargers. Yep. As well as I believe he was the defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. So now he takes over a team that was coached by John Harbaugh. What a wild lineage there.
Yeah.
With the Harbaughs, and now he takes over for a Harbaugh.
Yeah.
So he's a defensive guy. The Browns just hired today, I believe.
Yes, they
Todd
did.
Monken.
This is a big story. This is a big one.
Who was the offensive coordinator of the aforementioned Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
I
So
think the Browns job was a poo-poo job. I didn't feel like anybody wanted it. There was a couple of coaches that actually backed out of it and said thanks, but no thanks. What do you got with that? What do you got with this story
So
with
this
Todd Monken?
hire is huge, not because Munkin got the job, but because
Okay.
it has shook things up in Cleveland even more than it needed to shake things up. Jim
How so?
Schwartz, the defensive
Oh,
coordinator
yeah.
of the Cleveland Browns, the man who has produced a top 5 defense every year since Stefanski's been there, since he's been there, probably at least a top 10 unit for a long
Uh,
time, was very much under the impression that he was going to be promoted from defensive coordinator to head coach after the first couple rounds of coaches went through and they didn't find anybody they liked. And today, with the surprise hiring of Todd Monken, Jim Schwartz has essentially said, I'm leaving. I am done.
yeah, because
I am
they wanted him to
disrespected.
stay. Is that what I read, or is that what I heard?
They wanted him to stay.
Cleveland thought he was going to stay. How hilarious! Cleveland is a hot ass mess.
They are a
Who in the
mess.
hell? Who in the hell thinks they're
Yeah.
gonna not who have somebody on their staff interview for the job, be qualified for the job,
Very qualified for the job.
and
Former
then
head
tell them,
coach.
yeah, you know what? We're not gonna promote you. What we're gonna do is we're gonna bring somebody else in. What do you
Well,
say? You stay
so-
in your same position.
So what's even more interesting about it is, as the story's kind of unfolded, and it still
better
is
than that.
unfolding today, is
Uh-huh.
the biggest issue throughout this entire hiring process for the Browns has been they wanted to do what they could to get a guy that either will work well with Jim Schwartz or they will promote him. So then they hired a guy that Jim Schwartz wasn't even thinking about or wasn't even a part of the process with Jim Schwartz. So he's just pissed beyond all. And like, again, he didn't have a great career as a head coach when he was coaching the Lions. He had some of the best seasons the Lions have had since they had Barry Sanders, but we didn't do anything with it. But he was a head coach who had a couple successful years. And he's very much proven that he can coach a damn good defense. So pissing off that man and having him walk out your building and say, I'm gone, is huge for them. And I do not think the star-studded defense they have is going to be happy with the fact that Jim Schwartz is walking. And I think a lot of shit is going to hit the fan for Cleveland in the next couple of months. And next year, we're going to see a completely different team. So, yeah, I mean, that is crazy. I think that is the biggest thing that has happened in the head coaching cycle, even bigger than Harbaugh going to New York and some of these other head coaching hires because of just what has changed in that building. Definitely goes up there with what the Bills did last week for sure. Which, speaking of the Bills, the Bills also have a new head coach. Seems like they promoted their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to be their next head coach, and they passed on Dable, who I thought they were going to hire.
Yeah, that's the Bills have been an interesting thing to watch for the last week or so, 10 days since they fired McDermott.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of opinions and a lot of scuttlebutt on exactly what happened in that building. None of what they're saying publicly makes sense and adds up at all. They fired McDermott. They blamed it on some decisions with some drafts, specifically Keon Coleman, wide receiver, on the coaching staff, which is how they justified promoting the general manager, who is almost exclusively, with rare exceptions, the person who makes decisions on who gets drafted and people that come to the team. They promoted him from GM to football operations.
Yep.
Then they came out, and then there was actual footage saying that he was actually the one who wanted to draft Keon Coleman.
Yep.
Which meant that whole line of that didn't make any sense. And then they sort of sidestepped around a few things. Next thing you know, they're promoting their offensive coordinator to the head coaching spot.
Yep.
And it all just sort of looks like, and certainly you can put the dots together. I haven't I haven't done a ton of research on this and listened to a lot of the insiders and talking heads on this, but what I have heard sort of leads me to believe that this was kind of a plan the whole time. Like if they didn't go deep, 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 and they sort of stepped all over themselves in what they said and how they've
Mm-hmm.
gone about business. And I'm not really sure necessarily that it matters, I guess, in the long run, but it just
Yeah.
is, it's all kind of weird. It's just all kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
And they fired McDermott, who was very popular in the locker room, and there was a lot of public outcry from the players. And so I don't know I don't know what the feeling in the locker room is with Joe Brady being promoted, but we'll see how it goes. I will say that there's a lot of pressure on Joe Brady because he has Josh Allen,
He's
and
adopting one of the best rosters in the league, right?
because the Bills, in spite of their inability to get to the Super Bowl, has been a very good team and been deep into the playoffs for the last 6 years since McDermott's.
Yeah.
Most of the time McDermott's been there, and so, and I mean, nothing short of Super Bowl or Super Bowl win is what needs to happen in the next, 2 to 4 years. Otherwise,
I think he has a hard
this
set
is gonna
3
be
years
silly.
to do it.
Yeah, so it's
No
gonna be
more, no
tough. But
less.
I just think the Bills have generally been a well-run franchise, and in the last week and a half, they've really kind of stepped all over
Yeah,
themselves. To
it
be honest,
confuses me.
it's kind
I
of
don't
weird.
know. It's a mess. Again, the Browns and the Bills are truly the losers of the offseason so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
Um,
then and interestingly so, where's Dable in all of this?
This is what I was going to bring up next. To
Where'd
move
Dable
on.
go?
So to move on into not head coach hirings, but coordinator hirings and such, Brian Dable has been hired as the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. He's joining
Yeah,
Mr. Robert Saleh with the Tennessee Titans, and he's getting to coach the guy that he wanted to draft in New York at one point. Last year, there were stories that Dable really wanted to draft Cam Ward. They didn't end up getting him, right? But now Dable is getting the chance to coach the guy that he wanted to coach in Tennessee, and he doesn't have to worry about anything else other than coaching a good offense. So that's great. Good for
well,
him.
and that's how he got the job as being the Giants head coach,
Yep.
because he was in Buffalo when
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, in I think Josh Allen's second year or something.
Yeah.
He's the one that turned
He's the one who
Josh
turned him
Allen
around.
into a hot ass mess, into the Pro Bowl perennial all pro quarterback
Yeah.
that he is today. The guy we know as Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And so he sort of is responsible or gets credit for kind of turning Josh Allen into Josh Allen. And so that's sort of exciting to see. I mean, he's going to be, and I think honestly that coaching staff with Robert Saleh as the head coach there, and Dable now running in the offense, we'll see what happens.
Titans might
We'll
turn it
see.
around, man. We'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll see. So it's just been interesting. That leaves us basically sort of wrap this up. The Cardinals still do not have a head coach. I have no information on the Cardinals and their search for a head coach. I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't think.
know.
I mean, I guess the Browns you could look at has a better players, has a better defense, and has some really good players on that team.
The Cardinals
Maybe
are a pretty
maybe
bad
as
team.
yeah, and
They're
so
rough.
maybe that's where the Browns are better. Although I would argue that the Browns ownership,
Is
and then
rough.
just watching what they do, it's just a hot ass mess. And so I don't know. But the Cardinals, I haven't heard anybody, and I don't think they're going to get anybody
I
with a
don't.
name,
Yeah,
to be
I don't
quite
know.
honest.
I mean, we do have McDermott open, but I don't know if he'd want that. Like, he can take a year off and get his
I don't
get
think
his own
so. I
job.
would. Yeah, I
I'm
certainly would too.
wondering. I'm wondering if what's gonna happen is the Super Bowl is gonna end, and then we're gonna get a decision. You have a couple of the Rams coordinators that are out there, and then
Well, so that doesn't. Yeah, Shula
Seattle's
from the
and
Rams.
yeah, he
And so I don't, yeah, so I don't know if that matters on the Rams, but I haven't heard anything about the Rams. Maybe I'm wrong. I just haven't heard anything today or in the last couple of days about it.
yeah.
And so then that leads right into, before you get ahead and take the what I was just about to talk about, which was, we put a pin in it because you started talking about it earlier.
My bad.
The Raiders, I had some hopes on a couple of early picks for coaches that I wanted. Stefanski, the coach for the Browns that got fired, I wanted Stefanski initially. Atlanta snatched him up pretty quickly and kind of bummed me out. I thought Mike McCarthy I wouldn't mind having. The Steelers obviously got him. I
Yeah.
even thought, heck, if Dable doesn't get snatched up by the Bills, but I hadn't heard a lot of Dable at the Raiders, but he did interview, I believe, but wasn't a real serious contender there.
Yeah.
The name that has surfaced, and actually I talked about it on the pod last week. I didn't know all the names per se, but it was sort of coming out that the Raiders are kind of waiting to see what happens in Seattle. And
Mm-hmm.
so since Seattle's now in the Super Bowl, and I still haven't heard anything from the Raiders, I think it's a pretty clear. The picture's becoming a little more clear. And last but not least, on how this looks a little bit more clear, is that Tom Brady, a part owner of the Raiders, on the broadcast for the Rams and the Seahawks game, could not stop talking about how awesome Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for
For
the Seattle
Seattle Seahawks.
Seahawks, is just amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the things that he can do. And I gotta hope at this point, with what's left out there, that Clint Kubiak is who they're actually waiting for. He is the son of a previous head coach
Yep.
in the league and has done a phenomenal job in Seattle, and comes from a tree and a lineage of some coaches that I would like. He's an offensive coach, which is what I really want. That coupled with the first overall pick, which will hopefully bring us Fernando Mendoza, offensive coach.
Yep.
I like it. So I'm really hoping that that's actually what's going to come to fruition. I had some really big concerns about some, I'll say no name, which doesn't mean there are no names in the circles in the NFL of those who know. But as far as what's talked about on this, out in public and on with the talking heads and all that, there
Yeah.
was some really basically no names guys that were getting second interviews for the Raiders, defensive coordinator types that I
Yeah.
just don't want. I want to get back to some offense. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm hoping. One other thing, you have mentioned it over and over again about John Gruden, which is laughable
God,
to
bring
back
him
to the Raiders.
back. Bring him back.
However, on a side note, and I don't want to get too far off it, but the Jets did offer to bring in John Gruden to help coach and be part of the Jets,
Okay.
and
That's
he
different.
said thanks. He said thanks, but no thanks.
That's different. That's the worst organization in the league. Don't even
Yeah.
compare the
Anyways,
Raiders to the Jets,
I'm
Dad.
hoping where we sit today, there's been almost zero actual talk
Yeah, I think it's probably
from
going to
most people
Kubiak,
about.
right? They
I'm just
they
hoping it's Kubiak.
they interviewed like 3 guys total. One of them was Kubiak, and they haven't said anything since. Like it's got to be some like both sides have agreed, and they're just not saying anything until Kubiak finishes his stint and finishes this Super Bowl run.
Well, they can't.
Right?
They can't talk to him until after they're done playing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? Right.
As far as I understand
There's probably some form of non-committed agreement between both sides where they're like, yeah, I want this to happen.
Well, I hope so.
Right?
I hope so, and
That's
I
how
hope
I feel.
that Tom Brady was sending the vibes through the TV at me on because I
Yeah.
text you.
You did text me that.
I text you during the game. I said, and
Mhm.
I hadn't even heard that much about it. I've looked into it way more since then, and I certainly wouldn't say I was ahead of the curve because it was out there. I just hadn't heard that much about it.
Yeah.
But I said that, and I think I even text you to be on the record first.
Yes, you did.
Like
You did do something like that.
I somehow was breaking headline news to you, which I
Yeah.
wasn't, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
There
all
is
right.
one last thing I want to mention because you did mention
Go
it
for it.
really quickly and it popped up in my head.
Sure.
The New York Jets in the last week have fired 1/3 of their coaching staff. Aaron Glenn has cleaned house. That is crazy to me. I don't know what's going on in New York. I don't know what's happening.
Neither do they.
I mean, obviously, we know that they fucking suck. Aaron Glenn, a defensive-minded guy, led his team to a first in a very long time 0 interceptions in an entire NFL season. So we're going to see what that mess turns into next year. But if I had to guess anything, it's that Aaron Glenn probably will not be the head coach of the New York Jets by the end of next season. And the New York Jets will be starting over once again.
They'll be one
And
of the 7 or 8 or 9 for next year.
and we will see what happens from there. All right, done with coaches. Dad, you got 2 more
that's our
topics I think you wanted to
coaching update
mention.
for the week. 2 more topics. We might be able to get into more of these later.
We could
Let's do this. We have the Pro Bowl coming up this week for the first time. It's during the same week as the Super Bowl. The Pro Bowl games, or whatever the heck they're calling them now, is going to be on Tuesday the 3rd, which is the same week of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is 5 days later on Sunday.
Yes.
There's a couple reasons why I want to talk about the Pro Bowl. First of all, and really mainly, and unfortunately we're going to drag a name into it, fair or unfair, but it's sort of what spawned my thinking about this and sort of going down this road. Shedeur Sanders has been named to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So no matter what happened before or what happens in the future, it will be forever said that Shedeur Sanders was a Pro Bowl quarterback in the NFL, which is a travesty by the standards of the Pro Bowl in past years. Is used as something to say you are an elite part of your position of the NFL.
Yep.
And it is, in fact, no longer that. And not because of Shedeur Sanders. It's not his fault, but Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowl, and he was by almost all metrics like in the 35th
he was
of all quarterbacks in NFL. There's 32 starting quarterbacks, 32 teams in the NFL. So he was 35th below
ranked QB, yes. He was below backup quarterbacks.
He had a 56.6% completion percentage, and he had 7 touchdowns versus 10 interceptions on the year. I didn't look further than those two stats because that's as much as I needed to. He did not play the whole season. He did come in. I think he played the last 8 or 10 games. But those two stats alone should indicate that you're not a Pro Bowl. And so I use him, and it's not his fault per se, but the Pro Bowl moniker, the Pro Bowl designation needs to just go away, because in this case what happens is that the 3 original Pro Bowlers were Josh Allen, Herbert, and Drake May in the AFC.
Yep.
And by the fact that people Drake May's playing in the Super Bowl, so he's not going to play, so they have to put an alternate in.
I mean, I could toss in what it is, right? Shedeur was like the 7th or 8th voted quarterback to go in. Drake May made the Super Bowl. Every other quarterback who's been voted in is not playing because they are hurt. Whether they are actually injured and not playing, or they're just not wanting to play. But
yeah, because we picked Shedeur's going to be designated as a Pro Bowler this year, and these names of quarterbacks will not be. Drake May will not be.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes will not be.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Nix will not be. Lamar Jackson will not be. Trevor Lawrence will not be.
Trevor Lawrence was voted below Shedeur, by the way.
Okay, that's insanity, which is exactly why we're having this conversation.
Trevor Lawrence was voted below. Every other quarterback was above Shedeur.
And
Joe Burrow is another name.
Joe Burrow.
Josh Allen, you didn't say again. You didn't add Josh Allen to that second list.
Yeah. So that is laughable to me, that when you look at any one of those 8 quarterbacks and however many Pro Bowls that will be next to their name, there's going to be one less because they put Shedeur in there this year.
Yeah.
And Shedeur Sanders, and unless something drastically changes in that young man's career, we'll have a Pro Bowl next to his name, which used to mean something when you said that is not just an NFL quarterback. That is a X amount of times Pro Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, and it's still used today.
And that is freaking laughable.
It is still a stat that is used today, really. Like, when you do QB comparisons, you still do it.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be anymore. It shouldn't have been like this for a long time. When did they leave Hawaii? When did they stop doing it in Hawaii?
Oh, that's been many years now.
It's probably about when they should have stopped calling it, using it as an important stat. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
again,
the Pro Bowl
it's
now
not
is made up
Shedur's
of
fault.
playing.
It's not Shedur's fault. It's a flawed system. It is a completely flawed system, because all these quarterbacks that are above Shedeur are not playing in it because it doesn't mean anything anymore. And all of those guys are either getting surgery or have injuries or just don't want to play because there's no point. Or just
want to be on vacation.
Yeah, there's no point in being there, right? And so, like, in all honesty, the Pro Bowl isn't even a thing that good players should go to anymore. It's just the thing that young guys who had decent seasons should go to, or young guys who had bad seasons should go to, because it's a fun little thing they can do, right?
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm guilty. I will watch whatever nonsense they put on TV because I'm just an absolute loser for watching football. I don't care what it is. I'll watch it. when it comes to do with football. But I mean, we're talking that they play flag football, dodgeball, and have these weird games that they play.
They have yeah.
They just need to stop using the Pro Bowl designation, meaning that you're somehow special or that you've done something that you earned
to
it.
all pro, right? It sounds too close to all pro, and players on the all pro rosters are like actually good players, you know?
And they don't. There is no all pro game or anything.
No.
That just means you're the best of the best.
That just means you're the best
I
of the
don't know.
best.
I just wanted to get that out there. It just kind of fired me up. It's not Shadur's fault.
We don't hate Shadur Sanders on this podcast.
Don't hate Shadur
We don't hate Shadur. I've been advocating for him all year. I've been playing devil's advocate for him all year. We don't hate him. Okay.
Don't hate.
Don't
No
come
hate
after
for him.
us. We're supporting.
However, when I saw this, it meant that I really got a little thing I just had to get out.
Yeah.
I had to.
Yeah.
Just Pro Bowl. When you see Pro Bowl next to people's names, anybody listening, it means nothing. It means nothing. That's that. Last thing I wanted to get to today because it's so fresh, and I am not in any way, shape, or form an advocate for this person. However, it is a topic that is hot right now. It is hot. And that is that the Hall of Fame stuff came out last night before, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And one Bill Belichick was not voted in as a first ballot Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And that caused quite a stir. There are 50 voters, and you have to have 40 minimum to make it. I don't know what the official stats were, but at least 11 people did not vote for him.
Yes.
As
I think it was like
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you sit on this. I've got my thoughts on this. I don't know how much you've thought about that.
Yeah,
if you haven't thought about it at all.
I thought about it a bit, actually. I do have some thoughts on it.
What say you on the Bill Belichick snub as a first ballot Hall of Famer? And before you go, I just would like to recount his stats.
Yeah.
He has eight Super Bowl rings. 6 of them as a head coach. 2 of them as a defensive coordinator for the Giants. 8. He went to 9 Super Bowls as a head coach and won 6.
He went to 10.
Nope, 9. Look at it again.
8 Super Bowls as a head coach. Apologies. Never mind. Yes.
9 as 9. He went to 9 as a head coach and won 6.
Yeah.
There is not another coach in the NFL who can even sniff that.
Yes.
And
some coaches don't even go to 6 Super Bowls.
He is, and I will say this because it's indisputable, the most decorated head coach. And like him or not, he's got to be in the top 3 of all time, no matter where your loyalties lie.
Yeah.
The most decorated, it has to be in your top 3, even if you don't like everything about him. So now, having said those things, I give you the floor, sir. Where do you stand on this ridiculous topic?
I've already decided that, yes, he should be a Hall of Fame coach. I agree.
First ballot? First ballot?
First ballot.
We know he's going to be it.
He should have been voted in this year, 100%, without a doubt. The discussions that I've seen on it, they're bullshit, but I'll say them. People have said, oh, well, people were factoring in Deflategate and all the controversies that he was in, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like,
Spygate was the big one.
Spygate was the big one, right? And I'm like, who fucking cares? Are you gonna not vote Tom Brady into the Hall of Fame because of those things too? Because he was there the whole time for that. Like, no, Tom Brady's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt, hands down. I don't know where the disrespect's coming for Bill Belichick because he is genuinely like the most decorated coach in NFL history. He's a top 3. Some might argue he's the best head coach in the NFL history, right? Like
he's arguably the best.
It's undisputable. Now he's had a rough year or so with UNC, and he has had his past controversies. But that doesn't factor in. That doesn't factor into what you did as a head coach and as a coach in the NFL. Now here's my thoughts on it. What if Bill Belichick's going to come back and be a head coach again? Does that mean he gets back
in the NFL?
Yeah. Does that mean that Bill Belichick gets has a reinstated first time being in the voting, or does that not count anymore?
You only have to be, as a head coach, you only have to be out for 1 year.
I know, but does that mean if he comes back, does it reset that clock, or?
I believe so.
Because if that resets his clock, who knows? And, maybe they didn't vote him in this year. This is my conspiracy head talking. I'm having fun now. But maybe they didn't vote him in this year because they wanted him to come back. All right? They wanted him to come back so that he has a second chance. But yeah, no, it's all stupid. It's all a sham.
Let me get out my pew and shoot that down. He had no takers 2 years ago when he wanted to come back.
Yeah, nobody wants him.
He has since then gone to UNC, and quite frankly, in his personal life and in professional life, made himself not look very good.
Yeah, he's kind of thrown it all away.
If he didn't have people wanting him 2 years ago, and he's, like I said, we won't go into all the details, but sort of we'll just say interesting personal life.
Yeah.
And then absolutely stepped all over himself as the head coach for the for the Tar Heels at North Carolina. I don't see anybody saying, "Hey, you know what? I like what's happening with this guy. He's also like in his mid-70s. That's a great thing. Let's get a mid-70-year-old."
That worked out
build
well
our program around
for a football team last year. Yeah.
And with Bill Belichick doesn't want to just be the head coach, which is in large part why I don't think he got a job and why he wants to not just be the head coach. He wants to run the entire program. And I don't see not one of the 32 teams, even the most desperate ones, saying, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's take the 70-year-old guy who hasn't done anything at all
but
in
hear
5
me out.
years.
Hear me
and
out.
has a personal life that's a circus.
Hear me out. What's a great popular retirement destination in the United States of America? The one, the only, Arizona. All right? The state of Arizona loves old people coming there to retire. And guess what? Bill Belichick is coming to the Arizona Cardinals this year to be their head coach and to finish his career off. All right? That's what's happening.
Okay.
But
right.
Bill Belichick isn't getting hired. He got snubbed.
Okay.
I don't know who the frick they have voting on people who should be in the Hall of Fame, but man,
it's made up of a lot of a lot of people. The big one that people are really complaining about is Bill Polian, and he was in the front office of the Colts for a long time and played against Bill Belichick quite a few times, and he's pretty outspoken about not liking Bill Belichick. And you didn't really touch on this, or you did briefly, but the reality of the situation is that there's a couple. So the reality is this: the voters, the ones who didn't vote for him, are punishing him for Spygate. Spygate, for those of you who don't know, I'm not going to go into it a whole bunch, but it was basically a cheating scandal that Bill Belichick not only participated in, but spearheaded. It was basically found out that they had been illegally filming other teams' practices for many, many years. Up to that point. During those years was the first dynasty run where they won the first three Super Bowls. And the NFL punished them pretty lightly, probably by most people's standards. They didn't lose any games. They didn't have any wins taken away. They didn't have Super Bowls taken away. They lost a first-round draft pick. There was a $250,000 fine for the team, which is laughable. That's
no. It was a $250,000 fine for Bill, $500,000.
No, it wasn't. It was a 500. Oh, I thought it was the other way. But either way, it was less than $1 million in total fines, and they lost one first-round draft pick. They didn't lose any. There's no asterisks. There's no loss of wins. There's no loss of trophies. So there are people who are holding a grudge against that. That is a pretty significant cheating scandal that happened.
Yeah,
that's the main one I think that people have a huge problem with. As in his tenure, they also had, and just to your point a little bit, I don't think that most people, if anybody outside of Bill Belichick, knew that scandal was happening. I mean, I highly doubt. It was never proven. It never even got really talked much about that any of the players, including Tom Brady, knew that was what was happening. And then they also had Deflategate, which was more of a Tom Brady thing. With the ball pressure, which actually went to court. And again, they didn't lose any games. It was another one of those kind of slap on the wrist. And so I think people.
Didn't Tom Brady get suspended for a quarter of the season?
I think he lost 4 games. He lost 4 games. Yeah. At any rate, it didn't cost him anything. They still were in the middle of a dynasty run during then too.
Yeah.
So I think that there are people that are in the voting that are voting for this who wanted to punish Bill Belichick. My thoughts on this are twofold, and they're not my thoughts independently. I've taken some of this from Nick Wright on Fox, and some of it just from other places, and inspired my own opinion. If people wanted to make him pay, and that's why they just said this year's not going to happen. He's obviously a Hall of Fame coach. He's obviously a first round Hall of Fame coach. But they wanted to now make the punishment harsh for something that basically was a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really like that, to be honest with you, for a couple different reasons.
I don't either.
If, however, they're saying we don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer because we have to take into account the way he got some of those victories was because he cheated, so he's not as good of a coach. He's still a great coach, but we have to factor in that how he got some of those wins was through cheating. And it's not so much a slap on the wrist as it is. I just don't think Bill Belichick was as good of a coach because without those cheating, without those aids of those, they might not have won as many games, which has to knock him down a rung.
Yeah.
I actually feel better about that. If you're truly saying, if it's just simply we're slapping him on the wrist and making him wait a year, I think that's kind of petty. If you're saying, hey, I just don't think Bill Belichick is quite as good of a coach because he did use cheating, and that's how, and partly how they were able to get some of those wins and win a Super Bowl, then maybe that's it. The other factor, and I didn't bring this up at all, but it was an interesting point made, is, and knock on wood, but Bill Belichick is in his mid-70s.
Mm-hmm.
And God forbid he dies before he goes into the Hall of Fame. What a shitty thing that would be.
Yeah.
I'm not a Bill Belichick fan.
Yeah.
And in fact, for many, many years, I hated the Patriots. I had a very deep-seated disliking for anything New England Patriots. I would feel absolutely devastated for that if that happened and he didn't get to see himself going to Hall of Fame because people wanted to make a point. And I think that, that's where it kind of, for me, I find that would be hard. That would be a hard pill to swallow.
He got snubbed pretty horribly. Even if, let's just say, he had two big scandals as a head coach. So take away two of his Super Bowls, right? In a conversation, you take away two of his Super Bowls, hypothetically, right? He still won 4.
Yeah.
That's more.
I know.
That's more than any other head coach in the league, right? Right.
Yeah.
So
he'd still have the stew from the Bryant,
and he still have the 2 that he won with the Giants. But that's still 4 as a head coach. Like you just can't. You just can't, dude. You can't do it to him.
No. And at the end of the day, I think that you're right. I don't think that they should have done that. I think that, whatever penalties were made by the NFL. And you have to understand too, and I'm sure you're aware of this, maybe you're not. The NFL is a completely separate entity and they are not linked together. The NFL and the Hall of Fame are completely different organizations. They are not hand in hand. They don't operate as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame is
its own thing.
It's its own thing. And they only get involved with players and coaches and media after the careers are over and done, and they're just there to decide if the body of work warrants a Hall of Fame induction. And so I don't know. At the end of the day, with all of that being said, as much vitriol as I have for the Patriots, I think that he's somebody that probably should have been above votes. Again, Tom Brady's another one. I don't even think he should be on the ballot. There's no reason to put him on the ballot. He just is a Hall of Famer.
Just have an extra slot that year. Tom Brady's in, guys.
And Bill Belichick is one of those based on what he did in the NFL. So I just thought it was interesting. It's a hot topic right now. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. And share my thoughts on it.
Snub.
Because the fact of the matter is that as up in arms as people are, this story is going to go away, and God willing, he'll be alive next year when they vote him in, because that's what's going to happen.
Hopefully. All right.
Yeah, they're not going to stub in 2 years. I think this was their big thing.
I think that's it. I think that's all we had to discuss. Next week, we'll discuss probably the Pro Bowl a little bit more, since it'll be over with by the time we talk about it, I hope.
Yeah, we'll touch base a little bit on the Pro Bowl next week. We'll probably get a little more. I want to get into my real thoughts on the game.
Yeah.
On the
we'll get deeper into
game.
we'll get deeper into the
And
actual game.
any new hot topics that have come up before we wrap up our Super Bowl one. So cool.
All right. Well, thanks again for watching this episode of Two Vits Talking Shit. I'm Michael Vitt, and this is
And
my lovely
I'm
co-host, Mike Vitt.
Mike Vitt.
And thanks for watching once again. We'll see you later.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.